Break. My name is Gerard Dachet, the executive director of the Government Blockchain Association. I want to take a little bit of time to share with the folks here and watching us on the video about the resources available on the GBA site. The GBA site is a phenomenal resource for individuals that are looking to build their professional capabilities and capacities in the blockchain space, and for organizations that are looking to achieve their goals. So if you go to the gbaglobal.org website, you'll find a bunch of stuff, but I'm going to show you a little bit, and I'm going to tell you a little story about how we got here. So the GBA started as a meetup group in Washington, D.C. And at the time, I knew nothing about blockchain, but I figured I could do a Google search, find out a little bit of information, we could share it with some folks. So we had a meetup, and every month we would talk about a different subject. One month it would be identity management, the next month supply chain, the next month healthcare. And we started meeting in bars and restaurants, and it just started to grow. And again, I wanted to move forward in this space, but I didn't know what to do. So I just said, well, we'll get some people together, we'll talk about it. And I'll meet some people, we'll make some connections, we'll get it figured out. So so people started showing up. People travel through the DC area a lot, and people would come from New York, Dallas, Atlanta. Where's Randall? There's Randall. I think we connected on LinkedIn. Is that where we connected? Yeah. And Randall, what were you, the second or third chapter? DC, New York, and then third, right, so Randall started the third chapter in GBA. And what these folks said is, look, I like what you're doing. We'd like to do the same thing in our cities. We'll just share your slides, right? And so we did, right? But it got to a point when we then eventually got to about 120 chapters. Now, during the pandemic, quite frankly, a lot of these chapters have not been meeting in person, so it's almost like we're gonna have to go back and rebuild many of those chapters, probably starting in January, I'm guessing. But we built these communities of people all around the world. We've got a chapter in Beijing, we've got a chapter in Moscow, we've got a chapter in all kinds of crazy places. But I couldn't create content for that many chapters. So we created these things called working groups. And I'll just run through some of them. Artificial intelligence, acquisition management, asset management, aviation, big data, budget accountability, transparency, cannabis, campaign, fundraising, contract management, crypto asset compliance, cybersecurity, economic analysis, and I could keep reading, but elections, energy, financial regulatory, gaming, grant management. Starting to get the picture? Blockchain impacts everything. There's hemp and cannabis, identity management, information security, intellectual property, international trade, land titling, legal, right? So when you hear these speakers coming up and talking about all of these different subjects and topics, it's because we've actually got folks in all of these different areas working together. A big mission of GBA was to connect, communicate, and collaborate, right? And that's what that first meetup did. Now, what happens at these meetups, in these working groups? They're all independent. They all essentially establish a chapter. They're not all active exactly at the same time. Some are much more active than others at different times. But they come together and they say, we're going to create something of value. It could be standards. It could be a training deck. It could be a white paper, whatever. In some cases, technology and applications. And we're going to build something for the community. The other thing that happens is, for folks in government, they can join GBA for free. So they come to the working groups and they say, here's the problem we're trying to solve. And our private sector folks say, here's our solution, here's our white paper, here's our demo. And it happens a lot of different ways, right? Eugene is in our elections and voting working group, and it's been a wild ride, right? Through meeting other vendors and folks all around the world. It's been pretty much a crazy thing. In terms of who's in some of these working groups, we have organizations. Let's see, did I miss one? Yeah, we have organizations, and GBA has member organizations in a variety of different capacities. So this directory is for GBA organizational members, because a lot of times a GBA member might want to bid on a proposal, and they might have a great supply chain solution, but they don't have a wallet, or they don't have an identity management solution. So this way, the different organizations can connect, communicate, and collaborate. They do those in communities of interest. Communities of interest are, they're not actually building something. This is just a place where they can come together and ask each other questions, talk to folks that have similar issues and concerns, right? Arab banks have essentially an entirely different set of issues and concerns, well, they have some different issues and concerns than, say, U.S. banks. Colleges and universities, they're all building out different degree programs, exchange programs, and so they just want to talk to each other and say, hey, well, what are you including in yours? What should we include in ours? How can we work together? So a whole bunch of different topics. And then in terms of government, who's involved? GBA has government, it has members working in about 500 different government organizations around the world. So when we talk about, well, who are these chapter meetings and who are these working groups, it's folks from the local, state, national, international governments. And we don't necessarily aim for the top. We aim for the middle. Why? The folks at the top listen to the people in the middle. The folks in the middle are also the ones writing the contracts and making a lot of the vendor selections and actually doing the work, right? So our goal is to get folks that are program managers, folks that are congressional staff, folks in government that actually know what's going on, and they're the ones that are going to actually roll up their sleeves and get to work. We did we did another event, and somebody said to me, hey, you should get this speaker and you should get that speaker, right? Because they're big and famous. And what I realized with dealing with a lot of folks like that, they don't do a whole lot for us. They shake hands and they're a big draw. They create a lot of what I call star power. But I'm much more interested in firepower than star power. Another thing that we've built on the website is a member search. So if you're looking for people and you want to connect with them, right, you can go to this. This is a directory of GBA members who have opted into the directory, right? So it's not all members. They actually have to go through and fill out their profile. But you can search for GBA members based on their domain experience, their use case experience, different cryptocurrencies that they work with, right, languages. And this site is used by a lot of event organizations looking for speakers, or a lot of projects looking for resources. And so you do a search, and I'm doing this because just you never know with Wi-Fi and everything like that. Sometimes our site does slow down. It's fairly heavily loaded right now. But you can search, you can find folks. If you search for me, you'll get my name and my picture. That'll take you to my profile, right? And we're somewhat of like a social media thing, so you can communicate with folks. The profile is going to give you my LinkedIn contact, email, phone number, description, things about me. There's also groups, so you can see the different groups that I'm a part of. And early on, we were trying to figure out, how do we really help people connect, communicate, and collaborate across this very diverse spectrum? And one night I was in a DC chapter meeting, and somebody said to me, my boss is looking for, I don't know, whatever the type of solution. And I said, oh, well, we're working with a company out of Boston that does that, and here's our contact information. And what I realized was, by organizing people into geographic groups where they can build community, public and private sector, a domain and communities, right? What we've done is created a giant relational database of blockchain expertise. We also have a lot of resources. So if you go into the search bar, GBA, you type in virtually any topic, you'll find tons of information. We've got publications. So now before the pandemic hit and we sort of shut down we stopped doing our monthly meetings, this hasn't really been updated since then, because what we were doing is the working groups would put together content, we would put it here, make it available to all the chapters globally. We haven't done a lot of that. So some of these presentations right now are a little dated. Once we start those chapters up, they will get a little bit more in sync. We also have our own YouTube channel. Jordan manages our YouTube channel and has just done a phenomenal job. And you can find on this YouTube channel all kinds of meetings and presentations that we've had all over the place. This one right here, remember yesterday I talked about the one that got really heated? I think that's what the digital ballot debate part 2. It's either part 1 or part 2 that got really, really heated and crazy. But you can find, I mentioned yesterday about Dr. Robert Brown. I did find out he's not going to be able to make it tonight, but his video's on here. You can see videos that we did from the Capitol. There's Mihaela. She's out in the hall. There's Dr. Cindy Bhaskar. So, and where do these things come from? In addition to big events, we literally do events every week. right? And one of the things, now the purpose of our events is to do two things. One is to educate the community, but two, it's to promote our members, right? So you can only speak at a GBA event if you're a GBA member, but if you are a GBA member, Paul, have you had any experience speaking at any of these events? Yeah, and so the whole purpose is to bring a large audience together, and now we're getting a couple hundred people on most of our events, and then we bring the GBA members in front of those people, and we say, hey, look, don't sell to them, create value, but create the scenario so that when you're done creating value, they'll say, hey, can I have a card? I want to introduce you to my boss, right? So it's somewhat of a value type selling. We have, like I said, we have our own podcast on here. We have a certification program. So GBA has a number of certifications, and is Ashley in here? Ashley. So Ashley, I wish I could just give everybody time to speak. There's so much going on. Ashley's going to be working with us to really sort of professionalize this. Brian Nielsen runs the Blockchain Training Academy. A lot of the content really came from some of the early stuff that he and the Academy has done. We've got folks in here that have traveled all over the world. We license training partners around the world to deliver the courses. We have a blockchain foundations course. We have a blockchain technical specialist course, healthcare specialist, legal specialist, and financial specialist. And these are built and done by the different working groups. Thank you, Rob. But let me tell you the most important thing that we have on our website, and it is literally the very first thing we wrote, and to this day, it still is the most important thing. It's our ethics statement. And it says, GBA commits to reflecting various viewpoints and positions from many perspectives among its members. Yet, technology, like an inanimate object, is neutral with regard to human motivations. Therefore, the following tenets will guide GBA leadership and members as we engage with public policymakers, industry influencers, and citizens at large. 1, technology is a resource that can and should be globally used for good on behalf of all citizens. 2, the resultant uses of technology, such as blockchain technology and related innovations, strives to improve the quality of life for all citizens. 3, governments, government employees, and laws are instituted by citizens and nations to serve and protect, not suppress or hinder the free and positive pursuit of the governed. 4, the inalienable rights and dignities enjoyed by citizens shall not be unduly suppressed by the authorities of government as they carry out their mandated roles and responsibilities. And finally, 5, GBA will only pursue goals that serve to form a more perfect union between and among governments and the citizens they serve. We do this by ensuring justice, by establishing justice, ensuring domestic tranquility, providing for the common defense of citizens' rights and welfare, and securing the blessings of liberty in a free society. And that's the cornerstone of who we are and what we do. And from that, we build opportunities for the public and private sector to connect, communicate, and collaborate for the purpose of building a better world. And that's what GBA is all about, and I just want to share that with you. Thank you so much.